Nigel, a lot of challenges consultants are facing nowadays. I mean, which do you think are the most important ones we should be highlighting and people should be aware of?
Wow. Well, I think there's some real challenges there across the board, but the main ones for AV consultants, I think, and particularly those that have come from the AV side, as opposed to because we're seeing a lot of this merging now with IT, is the breadth that's having to be dealt with. So a lot of AV consultants, I believe, came from what was cottage industry, as we were discussing earlier. And in the early stages, it was quite a straightforward industry, sort of fitted roughly under FM and involved some technology being put into meeting rooms. That has morphed in a fairly short period of time into something that's running over IT networks. It's got a dependency on IT. It's changed the dynamic because it's much broader with the IT technologies there. But also, in an even shorter space of time, it started to move into smart building technology. So controls for buildings, meeting room booking systems, IPTV, digital signage, the human interface into what a building's doing or how a building's reacting. And that means that you've got to consult on a much broader base and get a lot more information up front. So from being sort of bang and hang AV, where it was just confined to some fairly basic audio-visual technology within a meeting room, it's suddenly all things. It's taking in business process, it's taking in an element of HR, there's certainly a heap of change management in there that needs to be thought about. It's enormous, and I think for what are still a lot of the time fairly small companies, to keep up with the new technology, to keep up with that change, is a massive undertaking.
So what are they doing? Are they working with like-minded consultancies, or are they hiring new staff, or are they project managing it by training up their own staff in a certain way? I mean, how are they handling it? Well, when they're trying to do business at the same time, it's a nightmare, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's all of the above, but I think it's a difficult thing to get the right people. And I think in the session again came out that there's if the industry has come from predominantly an engineering background, and the people within it, they're sort of designers. They're not necessarily consultant-led, they're certainly not necessarily management consultants, and suddenly they're being thrown into a very different area where they've got to extract, they've got to listen, and they've got to look across a whole plethora of areas of a business to really work out ultimately what to feed or inform the design. In other words, what technology then can deliver.
Because from the IT point of view, there were traditionally managing IT consultants who actually assessed executive requirements and fitted them with the technology and had then trained them formally how to use them and put into. They had a very close relationship with IT. They could test technology in their labs and so on. It was a major exercise for the old IT company, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're coming from the AV side into that in a sense, or a certain segment of it. Haven't seen much conflict yet, potentially because of the size of these companies, obviously. But you know, it's pointing in the right direction, I would say.
Yeah, I think with IT there was a lot of development of what we call core applications. So what are you looking for? What does your business need to achieve as its core level? And then turning that into a technology output that would help increase efficiency or competitive edge. I think a lot of the AV side is an adjunct to that. So it's not necessarily core for what a company's doing. It's not its manufacturing process, but it will be supporting that and again increasing communication, efficiency, etc. So it might not be dead centre, but it certainly still needs that interaction and that engagement to find out what the company's looking to do, what its aspirations are, and particularly if that's starting to impact what I would call the staff experience, the client or visitor journey within your building, and specifically attracting new talent. Because to have a wooden old building with a load of L-shaped desks and your competitor up the road's got all singing, all dancing, people are going to gravitate there. Certainly young talent is going to go to the funky place.
It's that awkward combination of infrastructure and experiential and how you match the two together. Yeah. And with IoT, this IoT thing is just a question of making the infrastructure itself more intelligent and measurable and deliverable, with AV tradition, as we would say, spreading slightly away from it, but obviously the skills there, but into creating much more interactive environment experience that's intelligent, so that it reacts to you, but needs the intelligent infrastructure underneath it to be able to do that.
Yep.
And that's always across a sort of general awkward mix of skills, really, isn't it? Because they come from two different areas.
It is absolutely, it's a broad range of skills. And when you think that the IT industry, not only did it have those people that would extract that information to develop those systems, so they had that skill, IT's also had a fairly rigid number of frameworks, industry bodies, training and accreditations that have been there for a very long time. So the whole IT side is sort of steeped in that. And then you've got the AV side that hasn't really had any of that. It's been a cottage industry. Even now, there's a real limit to the number of things that support that. So there's a lot of things that have got to be dealt with there. You think the poor old AV consultant, one day he was designing a few systems to fit in some meeting rooms, and suddenly he's got to go and interview the C-suite, see what the aspirations of the company are, what their hiring policy is, probably engage with the HR, FM, IT, and goodness knows who else, the property department of a company. Turn that into some meaningful output, because not all of it will be valid, that fits the culture of that company, and then turn that into a design that goes way beyond the meeting rooms. So that's a lot to do, and at the same time actually be knowledgeable about all of those technologies, some of them really on the perimeter of what was AV, on the far reaches. For example, intelligent BMS systems and representing what the building's doing, maybe systems that are people finding and wayfinding and so on. They're systems that go way beyond AV because they're using beaconing and wireless technologies and so on. And it's that whole mishmash, and even knowing they exist and keeping up with that is a major task in its own right.
It's going to create new consultancies. So that, we probably won't see really small consultancies because they just won't be able to, or they'll be brought in very specialised jobs. And the modern consultants will have to be almost layered in its skills, and therefore small departments and small areas all come together. An integrated consultancy, which offers a variety of services all that are connected together.
It's a difficult one to know, because as soon as companies become larger, you get a sort of Goliath consultancy, quite often a lot of that passion disappears, and the whole thing sort of becomes a bit vanilla. I think what we were seeing here today was a number of consultancies. There is that passion, and people are very excited about what they do. The issue is, of course, as we were saying, it's hiring or having the skills on board already, usually by some of the principals of those consultancies, to keep up and be able to hire to do that. And how do you do that? Who do you hire? Because you still need good designers, but good designers may have a propeller head, but aren't necessarily a great person to go and listen to the C-suite saying what their aspirations are as a business.
Well, the integrators were obviously offering apprenticeships, but that's okay at the lower levels. But at the level of a consultant, you can't offer that sort of thing, can you? You either buy in their expertise, or you poach staff, or they've got to be trained in the same way from other projects. That probably in-house people, maybe potentially end users who've been through the process internally, that sort of thing. So it's difficult to know where this pool of potential expertise may well come. It's straightforward acquisitions, because they're straight universities, as you said, scientific, a very straightforward approach, but complex, professional. But with end user requirements and end user experience, much more difficult to actually get the right people and put in front and have that client confidence to know what it's like in the business as such.
And being able to just carry out that sort of work, to have it is confidence, I think, but to be able to address a room, to ask the right questions, to do it confidently, and also to be able to explain things to people who aren't necessarily technically, au fait, because that's not what they do. They're just looking for an outcome, a business benefit. So I think finding people to do that, you're not going to find them straight from university, you're quite right. But a lot more will be, if they've got some technical skills, but a lot's going to be about the person and their approach, their personality. It comes down to soft skills, a lot of it, I think. But other skills as well, sort of being able to extract information and ask the right questions. So, for what are relatively small businesses, it's quite a challenge, to get that mix of skills, be able to take that to market, and sometimes working for, very large organisations, to turn that into ultimately design that runs across a building, not just the meeting suite, and impacts their very operation in terms of how they use their workspace. So it's challenging times, but I think we're all up to it.